presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game. Big Ten champions. Big Ten champs.
National champions, yes.
Oklahoma City bound the Oregon Ducks.
Awesome day to be a Duck, man.
Boom inside. Touchdown Oregon. He gets loose. Fires. Hit. Pops the three. Oh, yeah. It's all Oregon.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider.
It's about how to be a group of people that know how to love each other to the absolute fullest.
Pleasure and joy to be with them each and every day. And I can't wait for the future.
It's just fun to be a part of a community that cares, that is passionate, and when we come together, powerful things can happen.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck athletics.
A Friday here in the Country Financial Studio. It's Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. It was supposed to be an Oregon baseball game day in the beginning of postseason play for Duck baseball. Unfortunately, with some weather in Omaha, that game that Oregon was scheduled to play against Washington today will be pushed to tomorrow morning. And so there's potential to play two games tomorrow. What we're hearing right now is that Oregon should play the first game of action tomorrow at either 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. Pacific time, or rather local time in Omaha, and then make that 7 or 8 a.m. Pacific time based on a few different things, how many games they're able to get in today at the Big Ten tournament. So a little bit of shifting of the schedule, but still a big-time game between Oregon and Washington going on. And, well, that means that we have already talked, or Joey has already talked to Coach Wasikowski on the Toyota Coaches Corner because, well, as of before an hour ago, game was supposed to be played on schedule. And so we have a little bit of a preview of the game against Washington. We'll get that for you right now. Joey Mac sitting down with Mark Wasikowski. This game won't be played tonight, but still a big-time matchup setting up the Big Ten tournament for Oregon baseball. Also on the show, I sat down with Joey Mac talking all things Duck baseball as we prepare for this tournament and postseason play for Oregon. But here's the conversation on the Toyota Coaches Corner with Joey Mac. It was going to be aired on the pregame show today. I'm not sure if Joey and Waz are going to record again before the game tomorrow. I think, maybe. They might. So maybe this is the only time this interview will be aired. Regardless, talking about this game, mistakes of this game, mistakes of the Big Ten tournament, and reflecting where Oregon baseball is at. Here's the Coach's Corner that was supposed to be aired on the broadcast today.
Just to go back and review the week for us, you got to be pretty proud of your team getting a series win over the weekend, huh?
Yeah, good morning, Joey. It's a beautiful day here in Omaha, Nebraska, and it's Marcus Leiden's birthday. Yeah, over at Lido's Lab there in Eugene. Nice hitting facility. Lido, you're awesome. Huge Duck, and, happy birthday. Hopefully it's a great day for you. Beating USC 2 out of 3, right? RPI in the top 10. Really good team. Best pitcher in college baseball. Right now, pitches for him, Mason Edwards, and to be able to come out with that series win 2 out of 3 is a really big deal. And assuming that we can hopefully take care of business today and a little bit in this tournament, we'll have a real chance to host and be back at PK Park for some regional action.
Well, and to that point, it kind of felt like playoff baseball. At least it felt like that to me over the last couple weeks. Down the home stretch, you secure a top 4 seed. Kind of feels like the playoffs here, doesn't it?
Yeah, good fan support, fight in the crowd, just all kinds of good stuff like that. When you start getting you start getting into postseason play where there's high emotions and, big energy and people scrumming it up in the crowd and all that. I mean, I don't condone fighting in the crowd, fans, but still yet, it is awesome that there's huge support for our team, and hopefully that'll get back to PK Park and grow even more this year.
I wanted to zoom out with you a little bit, Waz, as we officially start postseason today. Just review the regular season for us. So what have you seen from your ball club as a zoom out as a coach?
Well, we walked into the year, I guess. Catch me off guard with this one. The beginning of the year we started, and we knew that we had some good players, but we were very we just didn't have the experience, right? We just knew, wow, there's going to be some real ups and downs in this thing, and I think we saw a little bit of that. It was probably a little bit more steady than I actually thought at the beginning of the year. But, I guess the biggest thing for me as a coach looking back on the year, we weren't able to really pull away from teams as much as I really wanted to. I think that's a sign of inexperience. You just there's certain key times in a game, right, where it's the swing point. And I think an older club identifies that swing point time. And even though you're telling them as a coach, hey, this is the time to put your foot on their throat, they just a younger club and an inexperienced club, they just, I don't know, they don't put that message into action like an older club has experience and has already lived that, and they do. So I think that's the biggest thing. Very proud of the club that I coach. They've done a great job. They've positioned themselves again, very, very well. They're in the top 15 in all the major polls, and they got a chance to host a regional, And when I first took the job, people were just hoping we could get the postseason play back then. And now we've done it every single year, and hopefully we can, get over that hump and not only host this year, but make it back to Omaha for the big tournament, the College World Series. Yeah,
it's helpful to think about, just in a few weeks going to be back in these friendly confines. I like the way that you're thinking, Waz. To that point, too, I know every coach always would say, well, if you win, you got good players and multiple guys honored by the Big Ten. You got guys on national watch lists still. Just the pride that you have in your team, and they're getting some awards in that way.
Well, they are. Start with the bottom of those guys, the three freshman kids. Jaxa, Lawaki, and Anhilaya. I mean, those three guys are pretty spectacular young freshmen, and they're getting some big love. I mean, there's so many others throughout the field. Drew Smith, first teamer, Ryan Cooney. I think Max Maloney's on a defensive team, and I mean, you got all these guys running around the field everywhere, even down to Jack Brooks being the sportsmanship guy, right? But you've got tremendous guys who have improved so much. Tanner Bradley being a first-team relief pitcher, and then other guys maybe didn't get recognized to earn awards, but yet I think those are probably the kind of guys that are going to be hungry for this postseason run, and you're going to see them explode in this postseason.
Talking about postseason, a new tournament format this year was in the Big Ten tournament. What do you like about the tournament format this year? What are your thoughts on it?
I love it. I think it's a great format. I think you start with a double elimination bracket for 5 through 12 seeds. That should give 5 through 12 seeds an opportunity to play enough games to where maybe they get a chance to be an at-large bid by the end of this thing, even if they don't win the tournament. And then the other side of it is your top 4 seeds are protected much better. So they're not necessarily playing a pool play format where last year, let's call it what it was, fans, the number 1 seed, which was us, we were playing the 8 and the 12. And the 8 and the 12 seeds, no matter if you won or lost, you're losing points in RPI, which stinks. So that you really do avoid quite a bit of that. You get rid of all the meaningless games. Every one of these games means something. You saw last night 2 kids throw 120 pitches in their games, which is not abuse in my opinion, even though the modern-day guru says, well, that's too much. I disagree. I think that's just a really good start. And you had 2 kids last night just grinding, total control of the game, and pitched very, very well deep into the game, and that's why their number was at that point. But the games are super competitive. Nobody's throwing off. Nobody's, all these games matter. Everybody knows it. And that's another objective of the tournament is to protect your top seeds. All the games matter. Give 5 through 12 an opportunity to be able to be an at-large bid. And so it's accomplishing a lot.
To that point, you see the 12 seed, you see the 11 seed, right, that have advanced out of that double elimination bracket. Makes sense. Give them something to play for. Talking about that, Washington, tell us a little bit about your opponent, some of your remind fans of the Scout, I guess.
Well, they're going to throw their Friday guy, I would assume. They haven't announced it, but he hadn't pitched yet, and I would assume that's going to be Friday guy versus Cal Scolari, right? And so they're that I don't think their bullpen depth is super stout. I do think that their starting pitching is outstanding. I think that they have they do a really good job on the front end of the games there, and they're a scrappy club. They've got a guy named Hotchkiss who's got, 19 home runs, and he hit a couple against us. The guy's really good. He plays left field for him. Very balanced club out there. And one of the players, their catcher, they get him back, and he's a heck of a hitter. He hasn't been killing it since he came back from the injury, but he's really, really good hitter, and he was leading their club at the beginning of the year, and he's now been back since our series with Washington. So that should be a lift for those guys.
Keys to the game.
Play better than them. End up with at least one more run than them. Wind's howling in today, and it's not balmy. It's a chilly deal. We're supposed to play at 9 tonight. There's a lot of weather in the area. That may be 11 at night. Who knows what's going to happen? So the key is just to have one more than them. But I think looking at the tournament so far, it's been a pitcher-friendly park. You need to execute. You need to get your bunts down. You need to do things like hit and run and moving runners and stuff like that. I think that's been successful, and just really good defense and quality pitching has been the answer so far for wins in this tournament.
All right, Waz, thanks for the time as always. Go get them. Happy postseason.
Appreciate it. Go Ducks.
That was Coach Wasikowski breaking down the keys to success in that first game against Washington coming up tomorrow for Oregon. And it is tomorrow. You heard Waz mention it was supposed to be tonight. Weather in the area. Game has been postponed to tomorrow. Don't know exactly when it's going to be played. Expect either a 7 a.m. or an 8 a.m. Pacific time first pitch in Omaha, depending on how things shake out throughout the course of the day today. We're getting a timeout. Joey Mac on the road in Omaha, Nebraska. Talking to him about Duck baseball ahead of the Big Ten tournament when we return. Second side on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
We know you turn to the Duck Store for all your game day needs. And for students at the University of Oregon, it's even more. Class supplies, jobs, a seat on our board, a place to take a quick coffee break. Because we're your student-first, non-profit college store, every purchase you make directly supports the very community we serve. From working in our counters to studying in the classroom, from directing our stores to cheering in the stands, the people we serve, the students, are the very people who are the Duck Store.
Duck Insider continues from the Country Financial Studios in 1 minute on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
When I smoke weed, I get lost in the music. I like to isolate each instrument. The rhythmic bass, the harmonies on the piano, the sticky melody.
Hey, careful, babe. There's someone crossing the street.
Sorry, I didn't see him there.
If you feel different, you drive different. Don't drive high. It's dangerous and illegal everywhere. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
It's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you on a Friday, just about an hour ago, right before all of the schedule everything came down. When we thought Oregon was still going to play tonight, I caught up with Joey Mac before the Ducks do get rolling against Washington. Still a ton of great preview for Oregon in this entire Big Ten tournament. The Ducks will play tomorrow. Time still TBD for this game between the Ducks and the Dogs. But Oregon in a really good spot with some momentum going into the Big Ten tournament. Here's my conversation with Joey from the road. He's in Omaha, Nebraska. From Omaha, Nebraska, Joey Mac joining the program. Oregon baseball on the road, preparing for the Big Ten tournament. Joey, first off, a very riveting and visually appealing background you have there. That blank white wall is doing justice for the viewers at home.
Well, thanks. I guess I could have. It's funny, like, you think about these things when you're in hotel rooms, right? It's like, okay, where's the light source coming from? And this was the best light source. So you understand. I mean, we had one where you were sitting like in a corner next to a window, and I was like, what a nice chair Ryan has found.
I made it a real point to like curate that setup to make it feel like I was at like a bed and breakfast somewhere, like a very cozy, like, welcome into the distinguished corner with Ryan Milano. And so I think you should have brought some things from the studio and just plastered them up on the wall behind you.
Well, I can't reach any of my like other Oregon attire to like hang hangers in the background, but look, it's the hotel life. You're familiar with the hotel life. The natural light that comes in from the atrium over there is really something. I don't know. Yeah. Thank you for the comment on the white wall. Thank you. That's great.
Unfortunately, it wasn't a compliment, but I am happy that you're here with us, breaking down Oregon baseball in the Big Ten tournament. First off, how's the trip? The travel out, the practice day, getting ready for a game against Washington here tonight. How's the trip?
Well, I think that the trip is always a tax. I mean, there's no doubt that traveling is a difficult thing, but I will say, like, I like the way that it worked out for Oregon, because to back up, right, like there was a scenario that was in play last weekend where the Ducks very easily may have been on an airplane on Sunday, and you're traveling right after you finish what was a highly competitive series against USC, and then you're practicing on Monday to acclimate to the Central Time Zone, and then you're playing in that double elimination tournament. And so I just think after experiencing the travel Wednesday, having the practice day on Thursday, while everyone else in the 5 through 12 region or 5 through 12, I should say, portion of this bracket is playing, like Oregon got some valuable rest and some valuable practice time. And I think when you get to this point in the season, it's really difficult to quantify just how important that is, because on one side, you can get a little momentum going. I mean, Oregon's opponent tonight in Washington is a good example of this, right? Like Washington gets a little momentum going into this part of the tournament, and they're going to throw their Saturday starter, who's really been Saturday starter, at least from the series against Oregon. They've moved things around a little bit, the Huskies have, throughout the course of the season with their starting rotation. But like those things matter to me, right? Like you have a little momentum on one side because you're playing games in successive days, but then you're going to run out of pitching. Guys are going to get banged up. The rest is a big deal. I think it's very difficult to quantify, but ultimately to me, it sure feels valuable that Oregon had that practice time. And I think that goes a long way when you're in postseason, because, I mean, Ryan, like you play midweek games on Tuesday and Wednesday, then you're traveling on Thursday, you play a game on Friday. Like that's a challenge, right? The Ducks will often practice on that travel day. Well, in this circumstance, they didn't have to practice on the travel day. And I just think that the rest can add up here at the end of the year. And especially on the mound, it can really make a difference when you're in postseason.
Well, I absolutely agree. And it's actually, I think it's hindered the schedule and the routine, because baseball is such like a routine-based sport. I think it's hindered that at times where the travel has impeded with that practice day and that level of acclimation for Oregon as they're getting in. I do want to flash back to the end of the regular season and that USC series before we talk about this Big Ten tournament, because it feels like, and you set up the stakes really well, where there was a lot still at play for Oregon, not only against USC, but also against UCLA. And the Ducks were playing for a lot this past weekend against USC. And it's felt like it's been postseason baseball for the last 2 weeks against the two LA schools. I think for Oregon to be in that type of mindset, to be in those competitive games where every game, and you never want to drop a game, but it felt like every single game you had to win in order to set yourself up in a position to accomplish all the goals that Oregon wanted to, like getting a top 4 seed and how valuable it is in the Big Ten tournament. But I think that, Joey, and you can point to this, the postseason type of atmosphere that Oregon has played in against high-caliber opponents over the last few games, I think that's really impactful for Oregon, and closing out a regular season finale at home, I think sets up Oregon in a really strong position headed into this tournament.
Well, 100%. And I asked Mark Wasikowski basically exactly that as part of our interview this morning that I know folks are hearing on Duck Insider in addition to our pregame show coming up tonight. And, I asked him in that way, like it has felt like postseason baseball, because at the end of the regular season, you didn't know where you were going to be in the Big Ten tournament. And Ducks feel like they're playing to host a regional. Looking at all the projections right now, Oregon would be a regional host. Now that said, if you drop a game against Washington when you're already kind of around that 15, 16 national seed line, like maybe you're not going to be hosting a regional, depending on what happens around the country. That's why these tournaments can be so fun. That's why they can be so frustrating in some ways too. And I do think that Oregon deserves to host a regional, in large part due to the fact that the Ducks have played that sort of postseason baseball down the stretch. The first team to hand UCLA the wire-to-wire #1 team in the country in terms of rankings. In all the polls, they were #1 heading into the year. They've been #1 here at the end of the year. I would, regardless of outcomes in the rest of the way, I'd be surprised if UCLA is not the #1 national seed after being #1, I should say, wire-to-wire, and leading in a ton of categories. And I think that win goes a long way for Oregon. And the way the Ducks lost that series although frustrating, right? It was 6-1 in that rubber match of that game, and UCLA came back to win 9-6. Well, UCLA is a really good team, and I think Oregon, as Drew Smith put it, coming out of that series, the Ducks felt like they got better and learned some things about themselves, just in terms of the grittiness that it takes and just all those things when you go on the road. And then against USC, it takes 14 innings for Oregon to win the rubber match. Two really good teams squaring off. And you mentioned this when we were on the air together over the weekend at PK Park, Ryan, that USC series felt a lot like the Nebraska series from earlier in the year at PK Park. And it shouldn't shock you, right, fans listening, that the people like Ryan, myself, that are around the team all the time, it's felt like postseason baseball, right? UCLA, USC, it felt like that against Nebraska. Well, guess what? Those are the four teams that are the top seeds in this Big Ten tournament. Those are the four best teams in the Big Ten. And I think all four of which are deserving to host a regional. I fully admit I'm a little surprised to see USC not projected as a regional host. They're number 8 in the RPI. There's been like one team ever that's been in the top 8 of the RPI that's not been a regional host at the end of the year. And if the RPI matters and we're going to take into account all these different metrics, I get it. That's what the committee's for, but that would be pretty odd and just really striking. Why I bring that up in the context of this question, though, is it's felt like playoff baseball because it's playoff caliber teams that are playing each other, right? USC coming to PK Park felt like a super regional. Oregon going to UCLA felt like a super regional. And let me just pause here and make a quick point, Ryan. Committee, if you put number 1 UCLA and number 16 Oregon matching up together in a super regional, why? Just put Oregon as the 15, please. Don't give us a Big Ten elimination for the conference in the super regionals. The Ducks have played at UCLA already. It was a great series. I'd really love to finish that series in Omaha. And not just in the Big Ten tournament in Omaha, in the College World Series in Omaha.
I completely agree with that. And I think that there's sort of twofold in that respect. One, I think that Oregon proved that they can certainly hang in a series against UCLA. And if that were to be a 1-16 type of super regional atmosphere, I think that would be a really strong series across the board and one that Oregon could potentially win the way that we saw them compete against UCLA in the regular season. Also, I don't like for conferences to match up. In regionals, they avoid it outright, but in super regionals as well. I think the point of postseason baseball for me and postseason sports in general is to see how these other conferences match up against each other. And if there are 5 Big Ten teams that end up making it to Omaha, well, great. Well, that bolsters the Big Ten, and it legitimizes a lot of the things that Oregon has gone through throughout the regular season in order to get to that point. I agree with you. I think that Oregon should be matched up across the board to avoid some of those things.
Well, and here's the thing that, as you start to break down, like, all the different metrics in the postseason, like, it's very commonly known, I think, that in a sport like baseball, there's some regionality to the regionals, right? Like, you'll have the straight, this is 1 through 64 as the committee ranks them, but then they move around a little bit based on regionality. And I'm just going to say this, like, one example may very well be, like, if Oregon State ends up in the Eugene regional, well, Oregon State may be like the number 19, just for example, and in like the 1 through 32 seeding, but they're going to be at the 16 seed or the 15 seed in Oregon, right? Normally you'd have the 32nd best team would be the 2 seed in the 1 regional, right? Like that's how the true seeding would work. But I think that there's that regionality to it, and that's been true in regionals. Sometimes it's unavoidable. I get it. But to me, like, moving 1 seed line so that you maybe don't have conference opponents in the super regionals, I just don't find that egregious. Like, I agree that you want to have a true ranking. Like, that's what the committee is tasked with doing. But I feel like if you can apply the regionality to a regional, you should also be able to do that a bit for super regionals, But I get it. Again, like, sometimes it's unavoidable. I understand that. And let me also say, like, it's easy for people like you and me to have this conversation. We're seeing it through green and yellow lenses. I don't want to be on the committee and have to figure all this out for 64 teams. Tough job.
Joey Mac and I breaking down where Oregon's at metrically going into this Big Ten tournament. There's a lot more that we can break down from Oregon baseball, and we did. Part 2 of the conversation, that's coming up in just a quick moment on the other side of this timeout on Duck Inside on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey campers, it's Jan from Toyota. This summer, we're headed to Camp Toyota, and the fun starts now. Your summer starts here.
Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Event ends June 1st. Toyota, let's go places.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey campers, it's Jan from Toyota. This summer, we're headed to Camp Toyota, and the fun starts now. Your summer starts here.
Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Event ends June 1st. Toyota, let's go places.
More Duck Insider from the Country Financial Studios after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
You wanted to be cool, which led you to smoking, which led to a pack a day. Then you met that special someone, which led to starting a life with them, which led to wanting to live longer, which led to quitting. Then you heard you may be at risk for lung cancer, which led you to getting a low-dose CT scan. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Second Saturday, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you on a Friday. Just about an hour ago, I was talking with Joey Mac, and we were trying to figure out who owns this pen. That's part 2 of our conversation, talking Oregon baseball. Let's get to it. Ryan Milano, Joey Mac. Oregon right now, they're 15th in the RPI. That's firmly on the bubble for a regional host. Oregon has 38 wins. Generally, you want to be sitting right around that 40-win mark. That's where your regional hosts come from. Oregon is 11-9 in Quad 1 games. Those 11 Quadrant 1 wins, only 11 teams in the country have at least 11 Quad 1 wins. Oregon, 15th in the RPI, like I mentioned. Their non-conference RPI is 23rd, so they scheduled decently tough, at least tough enough in the non-conference. And Oregon is inside the top 20, number 19 in the ELO ranking. You got to be in the 16 spot consensus amongst all of those different factors in order to earn a regional host. And I think that what we're talking about, Oregon, if you were to seed right now, probably right inside that cusp. But you do still have to take care of business here in the Big Ten tournament in order to get inside and secure that spot to have Eugene as a regional host.
Exactly. I mean, I think that the resume is important, and everybody values some different metrics differently, right? Like you and I have made a lot of like how I have felt the ELO ranking is a better representation of the best 16 teams at the end of the year. And what do you know, like Oregon's right there on the cusp, as you alluded to. A team that, for example, though, that won't like this ranking and is a great example of why there are different metrics. Ryan, did you see what USC was in the ELO rankings today?
I didn't see
USC
today. I saw in the series they were
25.
in the 20s. Yeah.
So USC is 25 in the ELO ranking. And the ELO ranking, for those that have not been listening to us drone on about this, but it's a metric that's based on how chess grandmasters were ranked, and the idea being that you don't always have common opponents, right? One of the weaknesses of the RPI is that there's not always common opponents, and that's kind of the regionality of the sport, right? Like Georgia Tech, for example, which is number 1 in the ELO, and UCLA is number 2, actually. UCLA is number 1 in the RPI, Georgia Tech is number 2 in the ELO, and the question's like, well, wait, Why? Well, sometimes it's because there are different metrics and rating systems that the committee then ultimately has to dive through all this. Well, but the point on the USC front is like they're number 8 in the RPI, they're number 25 in the ELO. And so there's the argument of like, well, wait. Like, how is that resume? How does that make sense? And that's ultimately what the committee has to decide and figure out. And that's why there's so many different metrics. But the point being for Oregon, the Ducks are right in that vicinity with all of them. There aren't really big swing factors for the Ducks. And to stick on the USC front, because I think a lot of us agree we agreed maybe the winner of that series at PK Park had the advantage to be a host. And USC losing that series, the Trojans are 1-10 in quad one games. Oregon, as you alluded to, Ryan, is one of the elite teams in the country in terms of winning quad one games. And those are against the best opponents in the most difficult scenarios, right? You get more credit for winning on the road and all the different metrics that add up over time with those quad 1, 2, 3, 4 games, just a way to classify how good your record was and how good your wins are. I think it's fascinating to always get to this point and break it down. It makes for an easy talk show, because people like you and me can just debate resumes for a while. But the truth is that I think Oregon's done a lot, and certainly a win against Washington will go a long way. Treating it like playoff baseball again, because now it is truly postseason, will go a long way. And if I could, Ryan, like one of the things I asked was today was just about, hey, your regular season is now officially over. Even though it's felt like playoff baseball, the regular season is over. And boy, it does change. I mean, Ducks lose tonight. That's it. We're flying home.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is your first test of like, that's what that feels like.
Yeah, completely agree. And I've heard some discourse about Oregon's non-conference strength of schedule. Well, it's not Oregon's fault that Vanderbilt didn't have as good of a year, or Arizona or UC Irvine didn't have as good of a year as they were necessarily expecting to. Oregon scheduled tough in the non-conference against opponents that are typically pretty good. I don't think you can necessarily hurt Oregon in terms of the metrics for that, but I do understand that those type of teams that are normally regional host caliber in themselves aren't up in terms of the same level that they normally are on a season-to-season basis. Joey McMurray with us. He's on the road for the Big Ten tournament. Joey, have you ever figured out who this pen belongs to?
No, I've been trying to figure it out for 3 months now, and I have no idea. It's not Georgie. It's not Jerry. It wasn't Dusty. It hasn't been one of the senior administrators that's come back through for Athletic Director Tuesday. I think at this point, it was Scott Phillips, and he planted it there just to see if we would notice and how long it would take for someone to take it and claim it. I thought for sure Jerry would just assume it was his and take it with him, and he didn't.
It's the first time I've really gotten a good hold of this pen. It's a great pen. I think
it's an okay pen. It smears.
Oh, no. Oh, I haven't written with it yet. But it's a good, it has good, hand feel for it. I feel like I'd be comfortable writing with this pen. Joey Mac with us. He's down at the Big Ten tournament. It's a different format at the Big Ten tournament this year. And you talked with Waz. We just heard it on the Toyota Coaches Corner a few moments ago, where the Big Ten tournament, it's a different format. I think it provides a lot of opportunity for and it serves two purposes. Because you think the top 4 teams, which get the automatic bye into the Big Ten tournament, they're teams that are probably secure in hosting. They don't need necessarily the one game to bolster their resume to get in. But a conference tournament win and high-quality RPI games would certainly help, which now with only 8 teams left, those are the games you're going to get. For teams like Purdue and for Michigan that were just outside of that top 4, they can rack up those quantitative type of statistics where they get up to that 35-win mark, and they're able to play a few more games and play their way into those higher RPI type of games where they can bolster their resume even more. I think it's serving two different purposes in a way that conference tournaments don't necessarily always do. I actually really like the new format for the Big Ten tournament. It's a bit long. It's a tough road for teams that aren't in the top 4 to win that many games to get to the finals, but if you are a team in those positions, ultimately your conference tournament should set you up for national postseason success. And that's, I think, what the Big Ten tournament is doing this year in a much different way than what they did last year.
I agree. And Waz and I had this conversation last year in Omaha and this year heading into the tournament. Like, there's so many different ways to do conference tournaments, and there's pros and cons, right, on either side. And last year, you ended up with games that in the immediacy of the Big Ten tournament, they ultimately just didn't matter, right? Like like win, lose, whatever. The way that the seeding and the tiebreakers worked, they didn't have an outcome, and so that led to at least in my opinion, it's like you don't want to go through your pitching staff then, right? Like that's not what you want in these situations. So to your point, Ryan, about the 5 through 12, they have an opportunity to still make the NCAA tournament. Like that's why we're doing this, right? The automatic berth doesn't come from the regular season title. Technically, UCLA doesn't know for sure that they're going to be in the field, but like that's the way that these things are done, right? But it also protects your top four to give them an advantage, and they're not going to end up playing a game that may hurt their resume. Like certainly Oregon losing to Washington would hurt the resume. Yes, but that's also part of the tournament mentality. That said, you don't end up with games that truly mean nothing. And so I agree. I know Waz was a proponent of this style of tournament, and the early return for me is that it works. It protects the top teams. That's what you want. And it also provides an opportunity for, you mentioned like Purdue, Michigan. I mean, those are not just like Big Ten top 4 seed bubble teams. Those are NCAA tournament bubble teams. And so it gives teams like that an opportunity to demonstrate something that their resume may need. And again, like that's what this is supposed to be about, right? Like last year, I think it's safe to say I don't think Nebraska was going to get into the NCAA tournament. Nebraska won the Big Ten tournament and got in, and they were, I think, the 6th seed, right, Ryan? Yeah, they were the 6th seed, I think, in that tournament, and that paid off for Nebraska in that way.
And I think in the same way, Washington had to earn their way to play Oregon. If Oregon plays a Michigan or Ohio State, which were the 6 and 7 seeds, which if they would have won both of the games, then it would have been them playing Oregon coming up tonight. Washington had to win 2 very tough games to get into this spot against Oregon, and that ultimately I think is what the tournament is about. And if Oregon wins this game against Washington, which sure might not be a high RPI level game, well then it's probably going to set up a matchup against Nebraska, which is a high RPI level game. And that's the type of opportunities that I think you want your team playing at this point in the season. And I think for Oregon and Washington, take the resumes aside, we've been very metrically focused in this conversation, but these teams have played already this year. And I think both teams have something to play for after that series up in Seattle about a month ago. Because I think Oregon very well thinks they could have and probably should have swept that series if not for a big offensive inning. Washington had one big offensive inning. I think the Huskies also think, oh, well, we stole a game at the end of that series and now have a chance to even up the season series against our rivals. I think that this is a series that has some storylines on both sides, and there is some tenacity that's coming from both teams into this game. Both teams have a lot to play for in terms of a pride level standpoint.
It's ducks and dogs. I mean, first of all, and it's a little bit healthier Washington team. Like, remember, Jackson Hotchkiss didn't play the first month of the season, and now he's one of the national leaders in home runs, and his home runs per at bat metric is off the charts. He's been that good. And then Colton Bauer did not play in the series against the Ducks, the catcher for Washington. He's now been healthy. So they're a healthier bunch now, and I think it's safe to say they got better as the season went. And I think if Oregon had caught them in March, the Ducks probably do sweep that series. Because to your point, it was a 7-run 6th inning in the Sunday game that really doomed Oregon. The Ducks lost that game 9-5. They won 6-4 on Friday. They won 10-4 on Saturday against Noah Kenny, who's supposed to get the ball for the Huskies pitching against the Ducks. He went 6 innings against Oregon, but the Ducks did get 8 hits and 5 runs against him. And that's not the first time that Oregon's faced Noah Kenny. Like, these are two teams that are familiar with each other. And I agree with you, Ryan. I think Oregon feels like the Ducks certainly feel like they had the option to sweep that series and didn't get it done. And, it's interesting that series in some ways, I think, is kind of a microcosm of Oregon's season. Don't you? Like, they've had a few games get away where they've won a series, but they haven't swept the series. And Waz, when I asked him, like, hey, zoom out on the regular season for us, one of the things that he brought up was that he feels like the Ducks have still not pulled away from teams. They haven't, stepped down, as we say, right, to really be a dominant team. And he thinks that's a little bit of the inexperience, a lot of youth in the Oregon lineup. And I think that Washington series is a little bit indicative of that point. Like, they had some opportunities early in that game to pull away and then didn't. And then Washington gets the big inning. And so the Ducks are like, okay, well, won the series, but you'd like to sweep the series. And I really feel like this is an Oregon team that still has not quite peaked. Some of that has been health, right? Like Jax Jimenez has been banged up. The Ducks have had other guys banged up of late, and I still feel like here down the stretch, you never know health wise what's going to happen, but this is an Oregon team that can still, I think, realize its peak, and that Washington series. This Washington game in the Big Ten tournament, good example of where Oregon can still, I think the coaches would say, can still improve, right? And that's what Waz has continued to say, right? I mean, you and I have so many conversations with Waz where, like, there's always things to improve on.
And there always is, especially when you get into postseason. You want to be peaking at the right time. Oregon bringing some momentum into the Big Ten tournament. Let's see if the Ducks can peak at the right time in the start of postseason play. Get another timeout. More to come in my conversation with Joey Mac when we return on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by one of your local branches today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
When life blindsides you with an injury, you need a team that's tough. For over 30 years, Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people. This season, we're proud to partner with Oregon Athletics. Because whether it's on the field or in the courtroom, we're both determined to do what it takes to win. Morgan & Morgan, proud partner of Oregon Athletics. Injured? Dial pound law. Morgan & Morgan, 10150 Southwest 6th Avenue, Portland. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone or just taking a deep, calming breath to ground yourself. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. The Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council have resources available for you at loveyourmindtoday.org.
There's danger out there. It lurks on highways and quiet neighborhood streets. It's more likely to kill you than a shark and more terrifying than the biggest snake. Distracted driving claims lives every day. Every notification, swipe, social post, video, or selfie while driving risks your life. So while you might think public speaking or the zombie apocalypse is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I'm coming home to the place that I remember. Back to the land of my first love. Would you spread wide your arms for this wayward son? I left my heart in Oregon.
Back inside the Coach Financial Studio, Scott's shoulders were moving there. He was grooving to coming home. Oregon baseball supposed to play tonight against Washington. That game has been postponed to tomorrow morning. Still start time for Oregon in the Big Ten tournament against Washington yet to be announced. Keep tuned to Oregon's social channels. I've been talking with Joey Mac about Oregon baseball leading up into this Big Ten tournament, recapping the regular season, and then part 3 of that conversation. Talking with Joey Mac about an hour ago about where Oregon baseball sits headed into the Big Ten tournament. Here's part 3. I would say that, sure, Washington might be healthier now than they were in that series against Oregon, but I'd say Oregon is also closer to full strength now than they were in that series against Washington. Cal Scolari was getting the ball tonight. It was his first outing back after missing almost a month after the Nebraska series. He only threw one inning in relief against Washington the first time these teams played. Jax Jimenez, he didn't play in that series, and he hasn't taken at bats since, but he's been slowly working his way back. Ryan Cooney was banged up in that series. I think this is a healthier Oregon team now than it was last month when these two teams played as well.
100%. And Cal Scolari might be the biggest indicating factor of that, right? I mean, we talk about playoff baseball. He ends up leaving that game against Nebraska in that critical 3-game series. And then his first ever career bullpen appearance was against Washington. That's the one that you're alluding to about 20 days ago now, right? And then he has a bullpen appearance against UCLA. The Ducks start him against USC. And Waz said it heading into the USC series that Cal has been the best arm for Oregon over the last few outings. And, we saw how much potential he had before he had to exit that Nebraska game. And, you think about just where a season can turn. Like, I mean, Ryan, imagine if Cal Scolari's pitching the rest of April. I mean, what a difference maker that could have been. And look, every team's going to have that. Washington does. Look at Bauer, Hotchkiss have been banged up at times. So I think that Scolari is a great point that you're making here of just like Oregon is a healthier team. There's no doubt about it. And again, still have some opportunity to peak at the right time here down the stretch.
I do want to talk about some of the regular season honors. Around conference tournament times, you get to these regular season honors, guys awarded for their efforts throughout the course of the season. Oregon had 2 first-teamers. Drew Smith was a first-teamer and on All-Big Ten defensive team. 3 second-teamers, a third-teamer, 3 members of the all-freshman team. And I think there could have been a lot more for Oregon that could have been honored throughout the season if a break goes differently here or there. Sufficient to say, Oregon is one of, if not the most talented team in the conference. I think they were rewarded pretty appropriately for it throughout the course of the season. Getting that many guys on different Big Ten teams, pretty cool.
Agreed. And UCLA had the most. Makes sense, right? The #1 team in the country. Oregon was second. And that's a team in Oregon that finished ultimately as the 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. And so that tells you 3 seed, you're right. That tells you something though about the way that this team is viewed as a very, very talented bunch. And particularly maybe let's focus on the youth, right? Like you mentioned Drew Smith, that's a senior who comes back and has been really, really good. But man, Angel Aya, Braden Jackson, redshirt freshman, I know, but still a freshman. And Junior Lawaki, like, boy, that youth movement that has really become the middle of Oregon's batting order over the last few weeks. I mean, that says something about the recruiting. And Ryan, it's interesting. Like, you look at UCLA, for example, and it's junior. It's 8 juniors in their starting 9, and then
we're not
DH
talking
is like rotating amongst. No, and you're rotating around, right? Okay. Then you look at Oregon and it's like, depending on where you are in the year, right now it's been like junior. Okay. And then the lineup has 1 senior, 3 freshmen, and
a couple of sophomores too.
A couple sophomores, right? Like the balance of Oregon's order, right? That it sticks out to me that like it's, they kind of have this depth of the lineup and it's not just all juniors. Now I get it. Like UCLA's got a bunch of dudes that are in their draft year. Totally. Oregon's got a consistency to the greatness in the lineup, and that's why I think it's cool to see all those guys rewarded in that way by the conference.
Yeah, and it felt like coming into the year there was kind of the question mark because there was such an offensive overhaul in some respect where it felt like 6 of the starters offensively went and declared and went professional. And then there's so many different guys that step up from so many different classes. And I do want to focus in on Junior Lawaki because he not only was on the Big Ten all-freshman team, he was also an outright all-Big Ten third-teamer. He only has 101 career at-bats. He only plays on one side of the ball right now as a utility. He's had maybe 5 innings defensively the entire year. He made third team with 101 at-bats outright. As a freshman, he only played half the season. It only was through conference season. I just think it's unprecedented the way that Junior Lawaki was able to navigate through the season, and I think it's appropriate the way he was honored because right now he's Oregon's leader in OPS, and it feels like that when there's runners on or in clutch situations, he's the guy you might least want up at the plate if you're an opposing team, and I don't think there's no better evidence of that than the Thursday game against USC when Oregon hadn't scored a run until the 9th inning. And on the very first pitch of the 9th, Junior Lawaki hits a game-tying home run. He's just been that good and that poised as a freshman. I think it's remarkable to see the way that he was honored appropriately for his efforts this year.
Well, 100%. And you think about, so there's always the debate, right? When you're voting for all conference, do you add more weight to the conference game statistics versus the overall statistics, right? And so, like, to your point, he really became a regular starter in conference games. Well, think about this for a second. Berkeley Mabius, who we all agree is one of the best catchers in the country. He's on the Buster Posey list. Like, Berkeley Mabius had 89 at-bats in conference play, all right? Had a really solid conference season, batting .326. Junior Lawaki had 77 conference at-bats. He was only really a handful of at-bats shy of Berkeley Mabius. And so that's just in Big Ten conference games where he slugged .675 in Big Ten games. Among guys that qualify, that was the highest mark for Oregon, a team that has a tremendous offense. That's what stuck out to me is like he was right there in some statistical categories. He had 9 home runs in Big Ten play. He was right there in those statistical categories. And I for one, was glad to see that his level of excellence really in Big Ten games was rewarded because he ended up being pretty darn close in that at-bat threshold. I'm with you. I think that's a cool note for him. And boy, what it might look like next year, because if it goes the way that he wants, he's going to pitch next year too. Yeah. That might be fun.
That would be a whole lot of fun. And even then, like, sure, he started starting in conference play, but he missed the first 3 series of conference play. Like, he wasn't in the starting lineup yet for the first 3 series of conference play either.
Right.
So it really was 2/3 of a conference season was good enough to get him on third team. I thought it was well-deserved for Junior Lawaki. And I honestly thought that Oregon, Drew Grego for Nebraska got the Freshman of the Year honors in the conference, but I thought that both Braden Jacksa and Angel Laya had a pretty good argument to be Freshman of the Year in the Big Ten as well, especially the way that they've been utilized for Oregon throughout the year.
I wondered if the 3 freshmen from Oregon split the vote a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if one person says, it could be Junior Lawaki, and then another person says, it's probably Angel Laya. Oh, I vote Braden Jacksa. Like if you end up just picking, like I'd be curious to see, like, does the Oregon freshman class have more votes for Big Ten Freshman of the Year than Grego did? I'd be interested to see the data. Obviously, we won't see that. The conference won't release it. But I wondered about that, like if you end up splitting the vote in that way. Because I think it's safe to say that Oregon's freshman class is probably the most robust and perhaps the largest contributors among an entire freshman class in the conference.
Take care of business out there. Get a couple wins. Maybe come home with a conference championship, shall we? Thanks, Joey. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Joey Mac on the road, Oregon versus Washington. It was supposed to be tonight. It won't be. It has been postponed to tomorrow. We expect probably a 9 a.m. Pacific time first pitch, or rather a 9 a.m. local time, a 7 a.m. Pacific time first pitch. Early morning baseball between Oregon and Washington. No time confirmed yet. Make sure to stay tuned to Oregon social channels as well as the Big Ten social channels to keep updated on when Oregon will play against Washington. We're getting a timeout and getting you caught up with some 2026, 2027 news. News for some sports that are coming up next athletic year. When we return after this, it's Stuck Inside of the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial.
Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
If you build a relationship, then it becomes easier. If you build trust, it becomes easier. As a parent, you want what's best for your child. To give them the love that a child needs is probably the best you can do for a teenager.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
You say you never give in to a meltdown.
and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it, and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, know it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You know you make me wanna kick my heels up and throw my hands up and throw my head back and come on now. Don't forget to say you will. Don't forget to say yeah.
We're back inside the Country Financial Studio. It's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union, getting you updated with a few things for the 2026-2027 season. First, Oregon football. There are some ticket plans that are available. The 2026 Oregon football standing room only fan sports pass is now on sale. Go to goducks.com/FBTix if you want to find the fan sports pass. This pass will guarantee standing room only ticket for each home game and the added benefit of a reserved seat upgrade for at least 3 of those home games. The fan sports pass starts at $489 and guarantees season-long access into Autzen Stadium at a discounted price over single game tickets. So make sure you go and get your Oregon football standing room only fan sports pass. Very limited quantity. So act fast if you want to be in Autzen Stadium this year. Also for men's basketball, the Players Era Tournament has announced their bracket for the upcoming season. There's now going to be 24 teams in 2 different Players Era tournaments. There's a Players Era tournament of 8. Oregon is in the Players Era tournament of 16. The Ducks in their first game will face off against St. John's. That'll be on November 24th next year at Michelob Ultra Arena. This is going to, I think that they used to call it Feast Week, that Thanksgiving week for men's basketball. This has turned into the premier event, and don't forget that Oregon won this event 2 years ago. It's a very strong field with a bunch of teams that ultimately it feels like a little bit of March Madness in the middle of November. So really excited for Oregon to play in the Players Era Tournament in a field that features a whole bunch of really talented teams that the Ducks can go up against. November 24th against St. John's is when Oregon will compete in the Players Era Tournament, at least in their first round game against St. John's, trying to advance through. We're getting ready for this weekend. It's the Big Ten tournament for Oregon baseball. Reminder, due to the holiday on Monday, there is no show on Monday, so it's coming up this weekend. Tomorrow, Oregon baseball will play against Washington. Hopefully they'll win and play later that day. And then win again and play in the final on Sunday. Selection show is on Monday for the regional rounds for Oregon baseball. And then Joey and I will be back with you throughout the show for Duck Insider starting on Tuesday of next week to break down what's going on with Oregon baseball, track and field, and everything else. Have a great weekend. Go Ducks.
Let's take a moment to breathe. Deep inhale. Extend your spine. Remain focused on what you're doing. If safe to do so, exhale slowly, leaning to one side.